Hello.
Hey, everyone.
It's the day we've been waiting for.
Recording day.
Yes. Welcome to Oh Yes Chat. God, sex, and money.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to just sharing our life with you, sharing our stories with you, sharing our experiences with you, and we hope that you enjoy it as well. And eventually we'll have people come on, right? Interview other people. Mm-hmm. And I think this purpose is to talk about the things that nobody wants to talk about, right?
That's absolutely correct.
Or that have been forbidden.
Yes.
Right. Well, I think a lot of it is we grew up in households that, or a lot of people grow up in households where it is not open communication about these three subjects. And why not? Because the way I see it is it's going to make your intimate relationships so much better in talking about these three areas. And also, if you're not in a relationship and you're dating, wow, that opens up a whole new world, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Does it ever? Yeah. So I think that, the reason that I just totally was so excited to join forces with you on this is because I sit in the private conversations with people doing work that like all these subjects come up and people are like, I can't talk to so-and-so and such and such. And so I'm guessing that some of you might listen to this and it might be alone in your car or somewhere where the other people are not listening, but maybe it'll give you some words to use or some things to think about.
Yeah. Right. Or just say, maybe you should go listen to this chat. That way they don't have to say it until they start getting more comfortable,
Yeah, absolutely.
Until it becomes not taboo anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, I think we're going to also bust some myths here because a lot of times we have heard something, but we heard it from someone else's interpretation and we didn't take ownership of it, of really what our perspective was.
Yeah.
And so maybe changing your perspective a little bit.
Yeah. And, we're told specifically, as you mentioned earlier, like, don't talk about these things. So here we are in full rebellion because, and they need to be talked about together. All of them have to do with worthiness and they all have to do, there's a common thread through all of those. And a lot of times I think that if we have a spiritual leaning, we especially don't look at money healthily and we don't look at sex healthily.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we happen to hang on to the God one and go, oh no, I will lose God if I deal with those other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be fun. So Lisa, tell us a little bit about your background and why you do the work that you do.
Oh, goodness. I think it comes from experiences. And the biggest thing for me is being a cheerleader for everyone. Like once you've gone to a place, you're like, oh, come on, come with me. There's freedom over here. This is so much a better way to live. It's so much more joy. And just going through different experiences in life and trying to learn what my identity is. Trying to get to that point of who I am, who I am created to be, and not having all of those structures and those systems that would I always get this vision of putting a thumb down, always putting a thumb down. And, I remember my mother used to just say, I don't know who you think you are. Get down off your high horse, And so, but having to overcome that and realize I really am a queen. I really am this person that God created me to be. And we're all here for a purpose, right? We all have a destiny to fulfill. I just love to see people figure out what is their destiny, what is their purpose, what is their identity. I'm like, yes, let's get that. Let's get to that freedom. Everybody deserves that.
Yeah, absolutely. We do. Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, what about you?
Well, so several years ago, my sister committed suicide, my oldest sister, and that was a really dark time in my life. I was not only dealing with maybe some guilt and shame from her death because I didn't reach out to her the day that she passed away, and I hadn't talked to her in a few days, and then also with my parents grieving over that. But ultimately, my sister didn't know her self-worth. And so in not knowing who she was and what her purpose was here on planet Earth,
Yes.
she took her life. She wasn't able to process some of the things that had been going on. And I think that's because she was starting to wake up maybe a little bit to who she was, but then she had all these values and beliefs that were instilled on her as a small child. And so she didn't know how to connect the pieces. And in not being able to connect the pieces, it was easier for her to check out.
Yes.
And that's why I do the work that I do. And of course, mine is money related, but money really is just a way to get someone's attention. And because there's so many different areas, I mean, money's such a small area of our life. There's so many other things that we have energy around, and that energy affects our money too.
Absolutely.
And so anyway, so I just want people to wake up to their self-worth and to know who they are and to really step out of victim mentality.
Amen.
And live their best life. I'm always about living your best life. So
Yes.
that's why I
Yes.
do what I do. How
Awesome.
about
Good
you,
job,
Megan?
Tina.
Well, as you mentioned suicide, and suicide's one of the reasons I thought this podcast is so important. Is because there's not a week that goes by that I don't end up having a conversation with someone who is seemingly perfectly operational in the world. They're going to networking events, they're taking care of their kids, they're doing all this stuff, and they admit to me that they've thought about taking their life. And sometimes it might be a fleeting thought, and they're not particularly serious about it. But the problem is that I think that those cracks in the foundation come from the places of the things that we're talking about, which have to do with worthiness and guilt and shame, because essentially it's those lower frequency. We talk about vibrational frequency, which is a big part of what I talk about all the time.
Yeah,
And I think we all do.
Yeah.
It's those lower frequencies where the enemy grabs us by the ankles and drags us way down the spiral. And to me, hopefully the conversations that we have here, even if you don't necessarily go, oh yeah, I totally agree with that, will create a place for you to begin to think, maybe I'm ashamed of something that just requires a conversation, or something that I can reclaim my family or reclaim my own identity from this society, which has so destroyed our sense of who we are and who we were born to be.
Yes.
So that's
Amen.
why I am here with you all.
Well, it's so true when you were saying that, it's speaking our truth. Do we always speak our truth, and do we speak our truth at all costs?
Yeah.
So a lot of times we don't say anything because we're afraid we're going to lose the relationship. We're afraid we're going to lose our job, and we don't speak up.
Yeah.
And in speaking up, what are we doing? We're suppressing more emotions and guilt and shame. Let's speak up and get it out in the open and deal with it, because that's liberation and freedom, just like you were talking about.
Amen.
Yeah.
Like, let's take the shackles off. Let's take the chains off. Let's just get set free. We can dance. We can live life. And I think we can only love people to the ability of the way that we have learned to receive love, and the way that we learn to love ourselves. And I think that goes deep into relationships, whether it's your marriage, your children, with your parents, with your colleagues, whatever that is, everywhere in your world, the way that you're operating all starts with you.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, do we unconditionally love ourselves? If we cannot unconditionally love ourselves, we can't unconditionally love anyone around us.
Amen.
And, think about growing up. What household did you live in? Where did your parents love you unconditionally, or were there conditions to their love? Because I knew there were conditions to my parents' love. They wanted me to make good grades, and they wanted me to do everything that they wanted me to do. And it's they didn't let me have the freedom to be who I am. I was living their life for them, and the mistakes that they had made in the past, they were trying to push me to not make those mistakes too. But then they didn't love me for who I am.
Yeah, I had that same thing. It was very punitive. It was like, if you want God to love you, you will submit to the things that we say. And then there was all of the, I say jargon that goes with, money is the root of all evil, which is not actually a statement. I think we'll cover that in a whole podcast in and of itself. There was all of these things, and it was like there was this big separation, and then there was contradicting things around the fact that I'm a trauma survivor. There was like God and sex were literally intertangled between sanctity and leverage of abuse in the name of God. Like, so I have some big things to say on the issue of contradictions that go on. And so for some people, it's like, maybe you don't get good grades. And then for other people, it's, maybe the position of how you're seen if you're a woman, like, where does that fit in the eyes of God? And so there's some stuff that I think we definitely have lots of topics to cover.
Yeah, I think so too. It'll be fun.
This is going to be so fun. I'm excited about this. And, I do think that everyone has, there's no such thing as a perfect parent, right? So everybody has something to overcome, or lies that they have believed from their childhood. But our thing is, don't, like you said, Tina, let's not be victims.
Yeah.
Let's come out of that victim mentality and let's do better. Let's do better for ourselves. And then we can do better for everyone else around us.
Absolutely. Right? Yep. Just like I love, putting the air when you fly, and you just recently got back from a trip. But yeah, what do they say? That if they start to have trouble and start to lose cabin pressure, you put the mask on yourself first. And but yeah, we are always wanting to help everyone else, and especially as women, we're nurturers. I mean, that's what we want to do. But let's take care of ourselves first, and then we can take care of everyone around us, and we can do it so much better.
Yeah. Amen.
All right.
Well, thank you, Mega. Thank you, Tina, and thank you everyone listening. And we're excited to see where these are going to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Freedom.
Bye.
Bye.